Here's a simple video on how to shoot and edit dark skin. I've been taking pictures for over 7 years now, and I've worked primarily with dark skin models and dark skin clients, and a lot of things that I've learned over the years as a self-taught photographer that have enabled me to make the process of shooting and editing dark skin a bit easier for me. Before we go into the editing, I think we should start with the shooting. When it comes to shooting dark skin models, one thing that you have to get right first of all is obviously your lighting. You should make sure that the model is not overexposed. With your white balance, one thing I'd recommend doing, honestly, I don't know if it's just me being a lazy photographer, but most of the time either shooting daylight on auto white balance. Even if I'm indoors or outdoor, I don't know if I'm just a lazy photographer. 90% of the time my white balance is usually set to either daylight or auto white balance. This way I'm usually able to get as accurate skin tone as I possibly can, where I don't have to make too much adjustments whatsoever. But as long as I know that I've got my lighting right, the next step is usually for me to make sure that my white balance is set in a way where it's as accurate to what I'm seeing as possible. Another interesting thing is that most of these tips is not just exclusive to dark skin only. You can work with any skin color that you shoot with. Another tip that I would like to give that could work for any picture in general, and this is just a tip you could use to take better photos, is trying out different angles. A lot of things that have to do with creative work is trial and error. Especially as a self-taught photographer, a lot of the things that I've learned over the years have come from trial and error, trying new things out and failing at it and trying again, and if something doesn't work, I'll try again. What I'd recommend you do is play with your angles. Playing with your angles is one of the best things you can do as a photographer, where you could literally do a 360 around the model, especially as someone usually works with natural light that you can't really control. Standing in one angle, taking a picture, stand in front of the model, taking a picture, standing by their side, taking a picture, even standing behind them and taking a picture. That way you're able to experiment with angles and see what parts of the image the lighting is hitting differently. Most of the time you just need to find where the sunlight or whatever light source is and having your model face that angle. But one thing I always recommend is you can sometimes get a bit more flattering image where the model is probably backing the light, or the light is coming from the side, or compared to the light coming straight at the model. Trying not to shoot in harsh sunlight. Now, depending on the type of image that you can get, if you are trying to experiment with your pictures and get something that is a bit dramatic, where you are taking the picture and maybe you want the harsh sunlight to create interesting shadows or something around that angle, that's fine. You can still get accurate skin tone. But one thing I would always recommend is shooting with sunlight in the evening. If you're shooting with natural light, I recommend shooting in the evening or early in the morning. In the evening, let's say around from 4 p.m., 5 p.m. thereabout. That's usually the ideal time where the sunlight isn't usually that harsh, and you can get more flattering images that way. 90% of the photos I take are usually with natural light, so this is something that has been very, very huge for me. Also able to play around and get really nice sunrise image or sunset images as well. Now with the edit, one major thing I would always say is that shadows is key. Playing with your shadows in your tone curve and playing with your shadows in your regular adjustments. Regardless of the editing software you're using, if it's Photoshop, Lightroom, Capture One, most times when editing darker skin, your shadows is what affects how bright or how light or how dark the skin tone of your model looks. Now, if you do get your exposure right in camera, you wouldn't want to increase your shadows, because this usually makes the skin tone of the model you're shooting look a bit dull and look a bit flat. Especially if the model is darker skin, I would usually recommend reducing your shadows compared to increasing your shadows if you do get your exposure right in camera. Now, also depends on the look you're going for. I would also recommend playing with your contrast too, because as a beginner photographer, one thing I would always do was increase my contrasts, and I usually didn't really keep in mind that I could actually reduce my contrast to make the skin tone of the model a bit more visible. I feel like a lot of people fall into this trap of feeling like they always have to follow a certain formula with their pictures. Depends on how you make your adjustments, it won't look flat. Make sure you make reference to the original image, so that way whatever look you're going for is not too far off from what the model's original skin tone is. The key things you have to look out for are your exposure, highlights, and your shadows. Those are the three key things you should look out when you're in the edits. Playing around with these values and not trying to do way too much with them is really key for you to get as accurate skin tone as possible. Now, the next thing I recommend is, when in doubt, increase your temperature. I can't count how many times where I'm editing a photo and the skin tone for some reason looks a bit off to me. Sometimes increasing temperatures does it for me because the image might be a bit too cold, and you just need to increase the temperature to bring out the most accurate skin tone of the model. This also works with people who are lighter skin too. When it comes to the color grading side of things, whatever color they're using to color grade, the color should be as close to the model's skin tone as possible. So let's say you're adjusting the shadows in your red channel or in your blue channel. The safest thing that you should do with your picture is lean towards colors that are close to the model's skin tone as possible. This way you are most likely going to get more flattering and more accurate looking skin tone. So these are some of the things that I've done over the years that have helped me get better looking images, more accurate looking skin tones. I hope these tips really helped you make your photo editing process a bit easier. And if you want to get some of the looks that you have seen in the images used in this video, you can check the link in the description to check out my presets. I have lots of preset packs in the description for you guys, so you can check them out. Thank you guys for watching. Take care and peace.